What if I told you the United States government once actively recruited hundreds of thousands of black workers from the South, promising better pay, safer jobs, and a new life in the North, only to abandon many of them the moment the war ended? This recruitment helped trigger one of the largest migrations in American history, but it also helped spark one of the most violent years the country had ever seen. In 1917, the United States entered World War I. Factories across the country suddenly needed enormous numbers of workers to produce weapons, ships, uniforms, and ammunition. But there was a problem. Millions of American men were leaving their jobs to fight overseas. Factories were desperate for labor, so the federal government stepped in. The War Industries Board. To manage wartime production, the government created the War Industries Board. This agency coordinated industrial output and helped factories find workers. One solution quickly became clear: recruit black workers from the American South. At the time, most black Americans still lived under the harsh conditions of Jim Crow segregation, often working low-paying agricultural jobs. The promise of industrial wages in northern cities offered something many had never had before: opportunity. Federal recruitment. Government agencies began working with railroad companies and labor recruiters to move workers north. Train lines became pathways out of the South. Black newspapers spread the word. Factories in cities like Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland needed workers. For many families, it meant leaving behind a system built on racial control. This movement would soon become known as the Great Migration. A new life in the North. Between 1916 and the early 1920s, hundreds of thousands of black workers left the South. They filled factory jobs in steel mills, meatpacking plants, and industrial assembly lines. For the first time, many were earning steady wages. Black neighborhoods in northern cities began growing rapidly. New communities formed. New businesses opened. And for many migrants, it felt like the beginning of a different future. War ends. But in 1918, World War I ended. American soldiers began returning home, and many white veterans expected their jobs back. Suddenly, the presence of black workers in northern factories became a source of tension. Federal wartime protections began disappearing. Employers began replacing black workers with returning white soldiers, and resentment started spreading across many cities. Red Summer. In 1919, racial tensions exploded across the United States. That year would become known as Red Summer. White mobs attacked black neighborhoods in cities across the country. Violence erupted in places like Chicago, Washington, D.C., and dozens of other communities. Homes were burned, people were beaten, and many were killed. The same migration that had created new opportunities had also triggered a backlash. Lasting impact. Despite the violence and discrimination, the Great Migration could not be reversed. Millions of black Americans would eventually move north and west over the following decades. They reshaped American cities, culture, and politics. And their movement helped lay the foundation for future civil rights struggles. The story of wartime recruitment reveals something important about American history. Sometimes opportunity is created during moments of crisis. But when that crisis ends, power often moves to restore the old order. And if you want to continue exploring the truths, stories, and forgotten chapters of history, subscribe to Blackout History.